Welcome to a CNBC TV 18 special. Despite the recent slump, the commercial vehicle market in India is set to double by 2020. And one of the companies that is uniquely placed to garner a large share of the market is the world's second largest truck maker and a Swedish giant, Volvo. Today I'm joined by the global CEO of Volvo, who is in fact in India for his first visit. Mr. Persson, thank you so much for speaking with CNBC TV 18. We are seeing that globally the commercial vehicle market has been going through a rough weather. And in fact, you've also stated in the past that how you're trying to utilize your capacity and lowering your capacity in many of the markets. But in India, it's a different story altogether. So is that a part of the group's strategy to increase focus more on the emerging markets as compared to the more established markets that you're present in?
I think first of all, I would like to say that India, for the Volvo Group, I consider these days as being a home market. We have been here for 15 years as a group, and we have developed the Volvo brand over the years in what I believe in a very good way, addressing the premium segment, both in trucks and in buses, and establish ourselves in a very good way. Now, we believe that long-term, all the prerequisites and the fundamentals for India to continue to grow is absolutely there, and therefore we are continuing to invest, and we also, I think, has created a very good platform with our cooperation with Eicher, where we have a 50-50 joint venture, meaning that we also get the history and the knowledge and the products available for us from the Eicher side. So that makes us in a very good position for the Indian market.
So Mr. Persson, along with services, trucks and buses, of course, construction equipment, so what is the kind of investment do we expect Volvo making in the Indian market going forward? Because along with your joint venture partner Eicher, you've already announced 18 billion rupees. So how much more will you invest as part of Volvo's investment plans?
If we look at the Volvo investment plans we're looking for the next coming years, it is around 20 billion rupees that we are looking at, and that compromises everything. We're talking about product development, we're talking about facilities, we're talking about engineering capabilities, people development. So we are, I think, showing in a good way that we have been investing in India, we are investing in India, and we're going to continue also for the next year to invest in India.
All right. Many, of course, see, as you also mentioned, the Volvo brand as being very, very premium, especially your bus and your Volvo trucks. But in India, we see the market is a very price-sensitive one. So obviously, you've got big plans to, big plans for the Indian market. Do you see yourself becoming a volume player? Do you see yourself? Are you willing to enter the price war that we see some of the established Indian makers engage in? So do we see you becoming a volume player? Do we also see you entering, the mass segment, so to speak?
I think that there are two sides of this. One is, of course, with our joint venture with Eicher, we are already in that very, very competitive segment where in the value segment. Mm-hmm. In addition to this, we have also decided that we will develop a value truck. So we will have a value truck which will be produced in India for the Indian market, which are addressing the customer segment below the Volvo segment that we have today. Mm-hmm. And when we have that, then we're actually covering the Indian market in a very good way. We have the Volvo Premium, we have the value truck, and then we have Eicher covering their traditional base of customers. And we're doing that by utilizing the knowledge between the Volvo Group and the Eicher Group. So the new value truck is designed in Asia, mm-hmm. It is going to be produced in Asia, and it's made for the Asian markets here. So
what sort of a value truck will this be, and which are some of the other Asian markets where you'll be producing this truck?
It's a range of different products that we're going to launch now over time, and it's going to be produced in Thailand, for instance. It's going to be produced here in India, and we're going to address the different markets here in Asia, both in East Asia, Southeast Asia, and that is something that we're looking forward, and we're really excited about this.
Excellent. So, and what's the kind of price point are you looking at, Mr. Persson, for a value truck like this? Because certainly, I mean, there would be a lot of takers, for such a model in India, given your superior technology. So, what's the kind of price bracket that you would want to introduce the product in?
we will introduce those products over the years to come now, and when we introduce them, then we will also announce what kinds of price and features and so on and so forth. So that is a little bit in the doing, and I would rather wait announcing that kind of information until we come with the products.
Give us a sense of the joint venture that you have with Eicher Motors in India. It's been a little over 4 years now, and you also mentioned in your presentation that you've learned something called the frugal engineering. So can you explain? Can you just talk us through a little bit about that? Is that something that you've learned now following your joint venture with Eicher Motors, and will you also be using the frugal engineering, for your global products for Volvo?
I think, first of all, I'm really pleased with the way the joint venture has developed, because it's, to me, a little bit of the best of the worlds that comes together, and it's done in a very open atmosphere. So we have, as you said, learned a lot from the Volvo group, from Eicher, and Eicher has also learned a lot from the Volvo group. But in that process, new ideas has also come up. And for instance, when it comes to suppliers, design, features, how you're really looking at the product from a fundamental point of view. And that is something that we have learned from Eicher, and their way of doing engineering and the way of those processes is something that we also then are taking into the Volvo group in order to see where can we apply that. And that is what we call the frugal engineering. And that is something that is, I think it's a very good thing when you can sort of get those words together.
So are you already applying that in some of your other global manufacturing processes, or is that a continuing process and we're going to see more of that going forward?
I think it's the latter. We are looking into it, and this is a journey, because you also have to really make sure that you know what you're doing, you're taking it stepwise so you don't do any errors, because the worst thing that can happen is that you bring in wrong processes into your products, because then you can have a failure. So it is a step-by-step process, and since we are in India for a long term, since we have the status and the position we do have here, I'm absolutely sure that we will take the time it takes to make sure that it's the right thing. But it's very promising. I'm really excited about it.
Do you really feel, that you have indeed a very unique opportunity to increase your numbers, given the fact that many feel that the Indian commercial vehicle market has been dominated by just 2 players for far too long, and that throws up a natural opportunity, for big global brands like yourself, like some of the other brands also that we are seeing entering the Indian market. So, do you feel that somewhere the Indian market has been a duopoly for far too long, throwing open an opportunity for manufacturers like yourself?
I don't look at it from that point of view. What I see and what is really our aim is now because I think if you add together now the Volvo commercial vehicle and the Eicher commercial vehicle numbers, we are number 3 in India. And what we're trying to do now is, of course, to work on that, to improve that. And our ambition is definitely to become one of the top 2 in India on the commercial side vehicles, done from 5 ton and upwards.
So by when do you hope to achieve that target? Because that would be that is a very ambitious target, given the fact that you've got 2 manufacturers in India, who've been dominating the market for eons now. So for you to come and do that, so what is the kind of timeline that you would be happy with achieving, at least ending up among the top 2 manufacturers in the Indian CV market?
I mean, that's a very difficult thing to state a year or a time frame. I have my ideas, but those ideas I keep to myself for the time being, and I think over time here now we will continue to develop and making sure that we do the right things and making sure we get the customers, making sure we have the products, and step by step over time here we have the clear ambition to grow faster than the market, and thereby also taking market shares.
You're seeing a moderation in demand, sir, across the globe, and even in Asia. In fact, in your recent address following the Q3 numbers, you also mentioned that even in Japan, some of the numbers, it's sort of stabilizing. They're not really growing too much. So given the kind of dynamics that you're seeing globally, how important do you see the emerging markets playing, especially India and Brazil, going forward?
I think the emerging markets have, of course, the opportunity to grow on a faster pace, given the fundamentals that are in the market. But I think we have seen over the years that if you believe that you will see a straight development or a very linear development, that is not the way it's going to pan out. And we have to also look at that we're going to see also in the emerging market swings going up and down. But in general, if you have the belief that the fundamentals as we have in the emerging markets are there, then the long-term view is really what's going to drive both the market, but even more important, of course, our own position in that market.
The Indian market, of course, along with Volvo and along with your joint venture, you know, it's done very well in the recent past. You're also growing. So from that perspective, you know, when you look at the growth rates of the Indian market vis-a-vis some of the other markets, how important does it become? Is it among your top, you know, growth markets for Volvo globally?
It's certainly been one of the fast-growing markets over the years, and just if you take the construction equipment activity we have, it has grown very much over the last 10 years, for instance, and the same way on the truck and also on the bus side. So basically that has increased, so it's been, and I think looking forward over time we will probably see that markets like India or Brazil and other markets will have a higher growth rate, giving the fundamentals than the rest of the world. So the importance of those markets to the group will, I believe, over time eventually become greater and greater.
Can you give us a rough idea the kind of market share that the emerging markets presently constitute to overall Volvo's global sales, just to understand the point that you're making?
I think if you look at it from a revenue point of side, you can say that today you can say that our traditional market, which is Europe and North America, is roughly, give and take, 50%. Then you have Eastern Europe, Asia, South America, the other 50%, which is showing that we are very much a global company now, having half of our turnover basically in what you call the traditional market, Western Europe or Europe and North America, and the rest coming from the emerging or the growing market, which I believe it's a very healthy balance, because that means that you participate heavily in those markets.
Talking also a little bit about you know, the synergies that you have and that you also mentioned, you're setting up a new engine plant also, which should be up and running by 2013. So what are specifically the plans for that particular manufacturing plant? We understand you'll also be sourcing a lot of the engines for your global processes. Can you just expand a little bit on that?
I think it's a very interesting project, and it's actually the first time where we now in a emerging market and put such an investment and also such a core part of the development like the medium duty engines that we're looking at here. And we are now building up over time here the capacity of this engine, and of course, since it is then becoming a center for parts of the engine, we will then export that also into the European markets and other markets, because it's a state-of-the-art engine manufacturing we're going to have. And I think this also shows that we are really long-term in India, that we have the confidence that Indian engineering, Indian technology, not only from a product point of view, but also from a production point of view, is something that is going.
Right.
And just let me add that it has been 2 years, and I was in India last time. I was not the CEO of the Volvo Group then, but it's amazing to see when you have been away for 2 years, come here, and you see the development, both from a country point of view, but also within our companies and entities. There is enormous development in production technology, in terms of quality, in terms of supplier engagement. So there is something really in India that is going in a very high pace, which I believe it's very much in the right direction.
Mr. Persson, you know, we've seen over the many years now reputed global brands coming to India, and one area where many have been found wanting is in terms of setting up service centers. And given the fact that you're in the commercial vehicle space, and of course you have to penetrate the rural areas, which is going to be very important, can you throw us some light on dealership, on service centers, because many feel that is going to be absolutely critical for any manufacturer who aspires to be among the top two.
You're absolutely right, and when we talk about investments, we also talk about investments in dealership and in the service points, as you call them. If we look at Eicher, has of course over the years built up a very strong dealer network and service points around in India, and also the Volvo side has done it on focusing on the premium products, of course. Now we cannot and we will not come out with new products new features and making all these investments without also making sure that we need to follow with investments in the service points. And I think that over the years we will see more and more focus, as you're alluding to, on the service capabilities, the skills of the service points, making sure that we have uptime, making sure that we have service agreements, and all these kind of things we already see start happening, and it will become more and more. So that's definitely within our investment scope, very much also on the service and retail.
Right. And also, a point on your construction equipment, because in the recent past, we have seen the government, mining was one big chunk for you, but, we are seeing that some of the big states where mining was, where one of the big mining states, in fact, Karnataka itself, the government had imposed a ban for a long time. So, do we see you entering other areas where you can use your construction equipment technology?
Absolutely. I think that we have been and still are and going to be very strong in the mining business. Mining business is a business that goes up and down very much, and has always done globally. But we need to, and we are, for instance, the number one and number two in almost all of the products for road construction, paving, compaction, all of that. We do have excavators now which very much focus also on construction work in infrastructure projects, and we're going to make sure that we cover as broad part as possible on the Indian market for construction equipment going forward. So we have plans there how to develop that even further.
Given the fact that you have, in a sense, you have your entire gamut of services and products and segments in India now, do we also see you expanding the commercial vehicle market in terms of introducing other brands, Renault, for instance, or UD? Are there any plans like that? Because also globally we are seeing your Volvo, Renault brands also, the sales of which have also been impacted. So do you feel that the Indian market is ready for another brand from the Volvo family?
We have, the Volvo Group has a unique asset, and that is our 5 brands. And what we have done during this year, and it's a very interesting exercise since I took over, we have started now to really go through market for market, brand by brand, and see are there any opportunities to actually have more brands, different brands, in order to cover a larger part of the market. And that activity is ongoing right now. And we're looking into all different kinds of options, and I've been very clear with the organization that put everything on the table, then some things will happen, some things will not happen. But that work is ongoing and will continue for the rest of the year before we can start to draw some conclusion. 2
last questions. Many feel, in fact, recently also, if you go by the industry data, the commercial vehicle segment, especially the medium and the heavy commercial vehicle segment, has been totally hammered. And also I think a large part of that is also because of the mining ban that the government imposed. So many feel that the short-term prospects of the commercial vehicle market still looks very, very challenging. In fact, even India's, the SIAM, which is the industry association of the country, they've also sort of lowered their growth forecast for the CV segment. So in that environment, we have Volvo making the big announcement. So talk us through it. Do you feel that short-term, do you agree that there could be some bumps, but in terms of long-term prospects, the Indian market still looks very, very healthy and promising?
I think that the long-term, and when you do investments of this magnitude that we are doing, then of course you're not looking for just up until the next cycle or something. You look many, many years ahead, and that is exactly what we're doing. And again, if you then take the fundamentals of the Indian market and the prospects of the Indian market and the movements that we have seen over the last years, then we feel confident that all these investments is going to serve us very well in order to capture more market share, to serve the Indian market and the Indian society in a good way with our products, and also develop not only products and services, but also help to get new production techniques in place, a new way of looking at certain things. And there I think also our cooperation with Eicher plays a very good ring. So we are here in India for long term, we're here for stay. It is a home market for us.
And one last question before we let you go, sir. Many foreign manufacturers have also voiced concerns over the way in which the Indian economy has unfolded in the recent past. Many feel that we could have done a lot better. Many foreign manufacturers have also sort of cited lack of clarity on a policy front, because of which many investments have not come in. So word on that, do you see the Indian economy now turning around? Do you see many of the cobwebs concerning Indian economy are now sort of going away, and things look promising, from a foreign investment standpoint in India.
Yeah, I think, as I said, long term we definitely see all the prospects and the positive development, and then we are active in over 150 different countries, and you have ups and downs in the countries for many different reasons. But if you're really committed to a market, if you really want to stay there long term, and you see the prospects and you see the opportunities, have the self-confidence that we're going to take a big place of that, and I think we will continue to invest on a long-term basis, not on the short-term basis.
Thank you so much, and wish you all the best, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.